Magnesium improves cognition, memory, learning, recall, reduces brain fog, is an antioxidant, helps neuroplasticity, and protects against glutamate toxicity. It's the fourth most abundant mineral in your body and is critical for optimal cognitive health. It's a cofactor in more than 600 enzymatic reactions in your body. It assists in converting energy supplied by food to a usable form to produce adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. This is your primary cellular fuel source within the mitochondria. It's also needed for the synthesis of RNA and DNA. In your brain, magnesium regulates the activity in neuron ion channels. These channels are like tiny electrical switches, governing the flow of neurotransmitters within the neurons. Magnesium also regulates brain synaptic plasticity, which is critical for learning and memory. Magnesium is critical to all your body's electrical and electrochemical activities. It's involved in muscle contractions, heart rhythm, nerve function, and brain cell activity. Low blood magnesium level shows up in seizures, hypertension, stroke, migraines, and Adhd. It can also result in insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. Magnesium controls the ion channels in brain cells. These tiny electrical switches control the transmission of electrical signals within and between the neurons, directly regulating learning and memory. Magnesium is necessary for ATP synthesis. It's needed for the Krebs cycle that turns sugar and fat from your diet into ATP, the primary fuel source produced within the mitochondria in the brain cells. Low levels of magnesium in your diet correlate to a high incidence of neurodegenerative disease. Magnesium plays an essential role in neuroplasticity and ATP production, which is fundamental to learning, memory, and cognitive function. Magnesium is the fourth most abundant mineral in your body, but many of us in Western society are living with a magnesium deficiency. Most are unaware of this deficiency. Magnesium in our diet comes from foods like green leafy vegetables, beans, nuts, seeds, whole grains, poultry, beef, and salmon. Tap and mineral bottled water also can be a source of magnesium, but it varies by brands, source, and if the magnesium has been filtered out during the processing. Magnesium is an essential part of neuroplasticity. Brain plasticity is the ability of your neurons to make cell-to-cell connections to form and to regulate learning and memory. With aging or insufficient magnesium in our diet, we lose brain plasticity, which results in the loss of cognitive function. This is why a young person with an active, flexible brain easily catches new ideas and simply thinks faster than a person whose brain has lost plasticity and is more fixed in their patterns. Magnesium is also critical to synthesizing ATP, the primary energy source produced in the mitochondria in every cell of our body, including the brain. ATP must be bound to a magnesium ion in order to be biologically active. This is critically important to how your brain's mitochondria and cells use ATP, including the synthesis of DNA and RNA. To put this in perspective, over 300 enzymes and over 600 enzymatic reactions require the presence of magnesium ions for their catalytic action, including all enzymes utilizing ATP. Magnesium is even involved in how other supplements in your diet are utilized by cells in your brain. The bottom line is magnesium could be one of the most important additions to anyone's diet. Magnesium boosts brain health and function in several ways. Magnesium is critical for neuroplasticity. Your brain is capable of forming new connections between neurons. When you take in new information, a signal is sent across the synaptic space between the neurons. The ability of your brain to form these new connections is referred to as neuroplasticity. This neuroplasticity is how learning and memories are formed. When these signaling pathways break down, memories fade and you start to forget simple things like people's names or phone numbers. A simple example of how it works is listening to this. As you listen, your brain is forming and reforming new neural connections. When things aren't optimal, you find yourself listening and re-listening to the sentences. Magnesium is critical for maintaining this neuroplasticity and your ability to learn and to form memories. Magnesium ions control the ion channels or the electrical switches for this signaling. The more signals that these ion channels transmit, the stronger the connections between the neurons and the stronger the formation of the resulting memory. Many studies demonstrate the detrimental impact of insufficient magnesium on optimal cognitive function. Magnesium is required for the ATP synthesis, and ATP is the main energy source produced within the mitochondria in the brain cells. 20% of your body's total ATP is located in your brain. For ATP to be biologically active, it must be bound to a magnesium ion. About 2/3 of your brain's energy budget is used to help neurons send signals to neighboring neurons. The remaining third is used for housekeeping or cellular maintenance. A radiologist at the University of Minnesota Medical School was co-author of a study on the brain's use of ATP. The team used magnetic resonance spectroscopy to measure the brain's energy production during shifts in activity. Their study on lab rats noted that when the rats were knocked out, they produced 50% fewer ATP molecules than when they were mildly anesthetized. It was noted that the ATP produced when the brain is inactive goes to cell maintenance. This housekeeping is important for keeping the brain tissues alive. The other 2/3 are needed for other cellular processes, including recharging neurons so they can fire, and creating the electrical signals needed for neuron communication, required for learning, memory, recall, and cognition. Without magnesium, your brain cannot produce ATP, and all brain functions break down. As we get older, our brain chemistry and our metabolism changes. ATP levels decline in the mitochondria. Cognition, learning, memory, and recall decline. Brain cell plasticity declines. Free radicals damage brain cells in the mitochondria. All of these changes can happen at any age, and they can be a result of not getting an adequate supply of magnesium. So magnesium supplementation can help for age-related cognitive decline, as well as anyone who wants to boost cognition, learning, recall, and memory. Magnesium plays a critical role in supporting neuroplasticity, which is fundamental for a youthful, flexible brain. A brain that's optimized to support cognition, learning, and memory. Raising brain magnesium levels has been proven to restore neuroplasticity and to improve cognitive function. Magnesium deficiency has been associated with Alzheimer's disease. Scientists have found that treatment with magnesium L-threonate decreases the beta-amyloid deposits in the Alzheimer's brain, and it's able to rebuild signaling pathways in neurons, helping to restore memory. And magnesium is required for the ATP synthesis in the brain cells, providing the mental energy needed for cognition, memory, recall, and learning. Magnesium improves mood. Most users report an increased level of focus, energy, memory, and cognitive ability when supplementing with magnesium. You should also experience an improved quality of sleep and have an overall improvement in mood. One of the most common reasons that we use supplements is to boost memory and mental energy. Memory loss drastically reduces the quality of life, and simple brain fog makes it difficult to accomplish the simplest tasks. Research has shown that magnesium is involved in memory, learning, and cognition on several levels, and supplementing with magnesium is one of the most fundamental things that you can do to help boost your cognition. Synapses in the hippocampus and other areas of your brain strengthen the more they're used. Even brief repetitive activity results in substantial increases in synaptic strength. The results can last for several hours or even weeks afterwards. This is called long-term potentiation. Several studies have been conducted on magnesium supplementation and its effects on memory in the last 20 years, with positive results. The study on aged and young rats found that adding magnesium to their food improved learning. Researchers have found magnesium works in the hippocampus to suppress the release of the stress hormone adrenocorticotropic hormone, or ACTH. This is the hormone that tells your adrenal glands to release more cortisol and adrenaline when stress is encountered. Too much cortisol eventually damages the hippocampus in the brain. This causes a negative feedback loop, which results in even more stress, which is toxic to the brain and your entire body, and one of the causes of chronic depression. A study was done with 5,708 people aged 46 to 49 and 70 to 74 years of age in Norway. The aim of the study was to examine the association between magnesium intake and depression and anxiety. The researchers concluded that low magnesium intake is related to depression, and they stated these findings may have public health and treatment implications. Another study was done with 12 subjects, and it found that magnesium supplementation improved sleep and it lowered the stress hormone cortisol, concluding that magnesium has possible efficacy as a mood stabilizer. Magnesium in the treatment of ADHD is becoming more mainstream, and there's a growing body of research that supports the idea that one of the factors causing ADHD is a lack of magnesium. A study in Poland showed that 95% of the children examined with ADD or ADHD were magnesium deficient. Recommended magnesium doses in most common forms is 400 milligrams per day, but a problem is some of these supplements are poorly absorbed and higher doses would be needed. Common doses could be up to 1,000 milligrams per day of magnesium. Magnesium is water soluble, so you don't need to take it with a meal or healthy fat. Most forms of magnesium can cause diarrhea and bloating if used in excess. Magnesium is sold as magnesium aspartate, bisglycinate, citrate, lactate, oxide, chloride, taurate, and L-threonate. The form that I use is magnesium bisglycinate. Magnesium oxide is widely available. It's popular because it's cheap to manufacture, but it's not chelated and your body does not recognize it as a mineral, and it can't readily use it, so it should be avoided. Your body doesn't make magnesium on its own, so to get its benefits, it needs to come from your diet or from supplementation. Magnesium is especially helpful for boosting memory, learning, recall, mood, and cognition. Magnesium is also particularly useful to help to alleviate some of the symptoms of ADHD and to help restore memory caused by neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's disease. While most forms of magnesium are helpful for overall health, most are not very helpful for cognitive health. Use magnesium bisglycinate. For best results, slowly increase your dose until stomach discomfort is met, then reduce until you reach your daily maximum tolerable amount, and continue to supplement with this to help saturate your cells. Magnesium is also useful to help you fall asleep and to stay asleep. If you're counting on getting at least some magnesium from a multivitamin supplement, know that most brands use the cheap, unbioavailable magnesium oxide form.